critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. And some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. Well, listen to the bass, it's the one on the bottom where the bullfrog croaks and the hippopotamus moans and groans with a big to-do. And the old cow just goes moo.
Well, the dogs and the cats, they take up the middle. Honeybee hums, crickets fiddle. Donkey brays and the pony neighs.
The old coyote howls. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. Oh, listen to the top where the little bird sings the melody with the high voice ringing. Hoot owl hollers on for everything,
and the jaybird disagrees.
Singing in the nighttime, singing in the day. The little duck quacks and he's on his way.
The possum don't have much to say,
and the porcupine talks to herself.
All God's got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. Everybody here is a part of the plan. We all get to play in the great critter band. From the eagle in the sky to the whale in the sea, it's one great symphony. Oh, God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud in the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, paws, for anything they got now. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now.
Meow.
Good morning and welcome, everybody. All God's creatures do have a place on this wonderful earth, and animals remind us that there are so many different ways to be in the world. Just like an elephant is very different from a cheetah, which is very different from a monkey, we all have our own strengths and our own gifts to bring to the world and to our Namaqua congregation. One of the things I like most about being a UU is our focus on accepting people and loving people no matter how different they are from ourselves. Usually we have a lot more in common than we think, as do, that's true about a lot of animals. This has been one of the funnest services that I've ever had the pleasure of putting together. This morning, we're going to invite the whole animal kingdom to join us so we can pay tribute to them and they can share with us their age-old wisdom. This service is for everybody, young and old, who has ever loved an animal or animals. I want to thank in advance the members of our church family who will be sharing their pet tributes with us very shortly. And we also want to thank Sarah, who has given so much to this congregation throughout this pandemic by being our master Zoom technician for so many of our services, including this one. So thank you, Sarah. This service will be recorded, and if you're a first-time visitor here with us today, we extend to you a special welcome. If you'd like, you can put your name and your email in the chat box, and we can send you out our email that talks about our ongoing and upcoming events. We are all welcome here today, visitors and members alike, and if we come today with joy in our hearts or sorrow, I dare say the animal kingdom will have something for all of us. Stay muted, but let's say together our beautiful congregational affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now, Reverend Laurel and Henrik Irvin will light our chalice. Henrik?
Okay, go ahead. A wise old owl sat in an oak. The more he heard, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why can't we all be like that wise old bird? We light this chalice in honor of the animal kingdom and all the ways that animals bless our lives.
Thank you, Henrik and Laurel. We're going to switch things around and start instead of end with our sharing of the plate this morning. As you know, our quarter plate goes, or our half plate goes to the Loveland Youth Gardeners, or LYG. We've been talking about them for a while now, and our own Aiden Christensen trained with them yesterday, and he's going to be working there this summer. Participants grow their own gardens and are taught a gardening curriculum which emphasizes sustainable horticultural practices. So you can click on the link in the chat box to give or send a check to the church. And in the meantime, let's play a clip from Our Planet so we can sit back and just breathe and arrive here today and contemplate the incredible diversity and beauty of the animal world. And now we get to hear from some of our UU members about how an animal has blessed their lives. We'll hear the tributes of 3 dogs, a horse, and a cat. So let's hear first from Aiden Comer, then Margot Irvin, Henrik Irvin, Janet Gillette, and Katie Fox. And I can direct in there. But could you start us off by telling us why you love your dogs, Aiden?
I love many, many things about my 2 pet dogs, but one thing that comes to my mind is that they bring me and my family so much joy and happiness. Sometimes Pillow, the youngest of our 2 dogs, does something bad that she knows she is not supposed to do. Like at the dinner table, she might jump on someone's lap, and then she will give us the cutest, most innocent look of all time that we cannot resist. It is like she is saying, "I'm sorry, guys. I know I messed up, but I couldn't resist. I hope you will forgive me." But then the next day, she does the exact same thing and gives us the exact same look. I just thought that was one cute reason that our dogs give us joy and happiness. And by the way, if you are thinking about getting a dog, I would definitely recommend. It might be a lot of work, but they bring so much joy to the household, and in the end, it is definitely worth it.
Thank
And
you,
I'm going to
Jason.
read, oh,
Go.
sorry, Janan. This is Cindy Black's tribute to her cat, Izzy. Our pets are so special to us, and they are certainly part of the family. I currently have 2 cats who I love dearly, Isha, short for Felicia, and Shelby. But there was one cat in my life previously that was extra special. His name was Izzy. He was a classic silver tabby, such a beautiful boy. He was with me for 14 short years. I really had a special connection with him that I felt was spiritual. He was friendly to everyone and greeted people who came to the door. He was more like a dog than a cat. One Halloween, he greeted all of the trick-or-treaters. He would lay on my chest at night before I went to sleep, and I felt such a deep connection with him. He got sick when he was 14, and he told me when it was time to go. Saying goodbye to him was one of the saddest days of my life. I still miss my dear Izzy. He was one special boy.
Thank you, Margot. And Henrik has a dog that he'd like to pay tribute to. Henrik.
Emmy Jane Urban. Emmy is a Blue Heeler Australian Shepherd and Border Collie mix. She's almost 16 years old and still acts like a puppy at times. My dad found her at a farm. She was also from a previous litter, but my dad took pity on her because nobody wanted her, and at that point she was 4 months old and there are new puppies to choose from. It was rough training her, and she can be extremely energetic. Emmy has always been in my life ever since I was born. She can be overprotective to a fault sometimes, but it's because she loves us so much. Considering her advanced age, this may be our last year with Emmy. She's always been there for us and will always be there for her until the very end. We love you, Emmy.
Thank you, Henrik. And next is Jenny South's tribute to her horse Buddy, and Janet Gillette will read that for us. Is Janet here today? Okay, well, let me go ahead and read that. This is what Jenny writes about her and her horse Buddy. There's an old cowboy saying, a good horse is never a bad color. In our early days together, my special horse Buddy taught me how true that is. At the time, I was shopping for a flashy mount, maybe a Palomino or a buckskin. I wanted a horse that people would look at and say, wow. Well, Mike was certainly not that horse, but something about him touched my heart. When I first saw him, he left his food to come and interact with me, which horses don't usually do. It felt like he had chosen me and I couldn't resist. Inside my head, I heard him telling me that he was going to be my very own buddy. In that moment, his name was changed forever. I had to make a snap decision, so I decided to go for it and buy him. As soon as we got home, though, I was plagued with buyer's remorse. What had I done? I wanted a big fancy mount, and instead I bought this little red guy. What was that about? I doubted I'd keep him, but I decided to start training him. Buddy had spent the past year on a dude string in Mexico, a very hard life for a horse. And because he was so gentle and kind, he likely got all the worst riders, those who would kick his sides as hard as they could and really pull back on the reins. So he did not want to be ridden. I worked with him in a small arena for a few weeks, but as soon as I opened the pasture gate, I realized that I had made a mistake. I hadn't put on a halter, and he immediately took off to explore the ranch. I grabbed hold of his mane and jogged along beside him. He went into an area of the ranch that was heavily wooded. Suddenly, my toe caught on a hidden snag, and I started to pitch forward. Just as I realized I was going to fall, Buddy stopped dead. There was nothing to stop him except his recognition that I had lost my balance. I certainly couldn't have stopped him myself by pulling on his mane. He could have run away, but he didn't. He didn't want me to fall. In that moment, I fell head over heels with this plain as dirt little red horse. No way was I ever going to sell him. Years later, when we won 2 large obstacle course competitions against 40-plus rider horse teams, Buddy became a neighborhood star. People would look at him and say, wow. And I knew for a fact that a good horse is never a bad color. And there is Jenny Sal. And then we've got, last but not least, Susan's tribute to Riley, her dog Riley, read by Katie Fox.
Riley came into my life a year and a half ago. I had been looking for a rescue for some time to fill the void left by the passing of my beloved 17-year-old rat terrier, Wiley. So my son and I went to Winter Park to check her out at her foster mom's. Well, when we arrived, I opened my door and a little black and white whirlwind streaked from the house past me into the car, as if to say, I thought you'd never get here. And since then, we have been constant companions. I had been down emotionally, and Riley became my therapy dog. Her enthusiastic temperament never fails to make me smile. She also needs a lot of exercise, being a Jack Russell Rat Terrier mix, and so do I. She knows my schedule and helps me stick to it, barking periodically to remind me that it's walk time or dinner time. And every morning after my cup of coffee, she jumps in my lap for cuddle time. What more could I ask for?
Thank you, Katie, and thank you all for sharing with us the tributes of these wonderful animals. During Joys and Sorrows today, we will give the rest of you an opportunity to share about the animals who bless your lives. But before we do that, let's take a look at a video about a man who blessed the life of a gorilla and was in turn blessed.
Come on then. Come on.
This is by Wendell Berry. When despair in the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. In our joy and in our sorrow, we are not alone. Do any of you have stories that you would like to share about your own love of animals and how they've blessed your lives? So if any of you have other concerns, please know that I'm available, the pastoral care team is available. But today, as we dedicate our service to animals, I'd like to invite you to put your name in the chat box, or you can type in your tribute to your own special animals in your life. Nicole, would you like to unmute and share?
Yep. Yeah, when I was involved with the wildlife sanctuary, I got to play with wolves and give a tiger a bath and take a lion for a walk on a leash, and it was a really, really amazing time in my life. But one morning, the sun was coming up and it was quiet. The animals weren't stirring yet. I was the only person awake, and I went to the sink to get some water, and the mountains were in the background and the sun was just coming up over the mountain. And I looked out the window and right into the lion's eyes, and something happened that I can't really explain, but it was a mystical, spiritual connection that I felt with Mufasa. And that was an amazing moment in my life.
I'll put in a stone. And Mim, would you like to unmute?
Okay. During the pandemic, Herbie has been to more church services than any other cat in the whole country, I think. He is remarkably 20 years and 7 months old.
Wow.
I've had him since he was 2, and he's the only reason, aside from a friendly neighbor or two, that I have remained sort of sane during the pandemic, because he knows how to comfort me. He's too old to play, but he's not too old to comfort, and I am very grateful for him.
Thank you, Mim. And Peter, would you like to unmute?
We have 2 cats, Missy and Beanie, as we call them, and they chase each other around the house with a fury all day long, unless we put the music on from the TV, and then they sit on the sofa and sort of just listen. But in the evening, when Gloria and I are watching TV, they get between us and lick each other while we, all 4 of us, the family, are together. That's it.
Thank you, Peter. Trish?
Unmuted. We, when we were growing up, had a friend call my dad and he raised Springer Spaniels for bird hunting, and they were great retrievers. And I guess there was one that just would not, he'd get all the way out into the water and poke at the bird and then turn around and leave it as if he didn't want to pick it up and hurt it. But he was a fabulous, fabulous animal. So he offered to give it to us as a family pet. And this dog's name was Duke. You know, he came with all his papers and his big brown eyes and his big brown floppy ears. And he was a dream dog, unbelievable. And when at one point, when I think I was living in Boston, he had to be put down because he was very, very, very sick. But they had waited kind of as long as they could. Many years later, when I was first married, we had a friend call because we had said we'd really love to have another dog. And he said, you know, what kind? And I said, oh, I'd love to have a Springer Spaniel. And about a month later, he called and he said, Trish, you're not going to believe this, but we have a friend who has a Springer Spaniel, and that dog, the friend died. And this Springer Spaniel had been going from home to home and it hadn't been good. So he said, would you like, I'll bring him over and you can meet him. So he did. And it was a brown and white, liver and white Springer Spaniel. And he, again, was a dream for us, just a dream dog. And eventually he got very, very, very sick many years later, and we had to put him down. And then once again, my son was dating a gal that worked, this is another 10 years later, that worked at a vet, you know, shelter. And there was a family that had a Springer Spaniel that they bought, but one of the kids was being abusive and the mother couldn't handle it. So she brought it to the shelter, and Scott's girlfriend said, Scott, you think your parents would like a Springer Spaniel? For a third time, we got this beautiful liver and white Springer Spaniel, great big eyes. And it was really as if the same dog kept coming home and gave so much to our lives. And that one was named Montana. I don't know why, but yeah, the spirit gets into you and it really never lets go. He was a dream.
Thank you, Trish. And now Margot.
Yeah, I just wanted to expand. Henrik already talked about Emmy, but Emmy and I have a very spiritual connection too. And when I first was married with Tim, he had her already, and I bonded with her instantly. And then we found out I was pregnant, and she was by my side, you know, from the get-go, every minute of the day. And one night, she woke me up. I felt her cold, wet nose nudging my face and licking my hand. And I was thinking, what's going on? And I got up to go to the bathroom, and I realized I was having a miscarriage. And I think she woke me up to tell me that.
Wow.
And she didn't leave my side for, you know, the next 7 days until it was all over. And ever since then, she's just been really protective of our family. That for my next 3 pregnancies, she didn't leave my side one time. And she's always just been kind of a protective spirit. So I wanted to share that because we love her so much, and she really is such a special part of our family.
Thanks, Margot. And Claire, if you want to unmute.
This is also an animal intuition moment. A few summers ago, I got to write my dissertation in Italy and got to spend a month in Puglia in southern Italy. So the landscape is very flat, and I was staying in a trulli, which is an ancient house without a door on it that's made out of stone, probably in the 300s or 400s. And I'm sleeping there alone in my trulli. and a sheep with a huge bell wanders in the front door in the middle of the night and is a ba-bong, ba-bong, and scares me. So I wake up to push the sheep out of the trolley back into the olive groves, and it was a night where there was a blood moon. And I had never really seen one before, but you could see the horizon in every direction and this moon taking up what felt like a third of the sky. And the sheep just stood there next to me looking up at the moon. It's as if it had sort of wanted me to come experience that together. It's a really special moment.
Wow. Yeah, thanks, Claire. And then Fran, and then Fred.
I want to talk about getting my first dog. When I was a child, I wanted a dog badly. And every day when my father came home from work, I would say, "Daddy, did you bring me a dog?" And he'd say, "I don't know, check in my pockets." And I would reach down in all of his pockets and no dog. And one day we had a glass top on our kitchen door. And I looked out when he got home from work, and he was holding a little black and white dog. His paws were on his shoulder, and he was holding it by his front feet on his head. And I got my dog. And because she had white feet, I named her Snowshoes. And I love that dog more than anything in the world. And since I've been an adult, I always have had a dog.
Thanks, Fran. And Fred, you want to unmute?
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I moved to Denver in about 1974 to get my first job. And within a month after I got here, I decided I wanted to have a cat. So somebody at work helped me find a young adult cat named Winky. And she stayed with me 7 or 8 years, the first 5 or 6 as a bachelor. She lived 6 different places with me, so I moved a lot. And I traveled a little bit too, and so I paid neighbors to help take care of her. She was just so good natured. I always got good reports. She adapted to anybody taking care of her. And she was excellent company. She died too early of some condition I don't remember, but I'm sure it would be curable today. But it made bachelor life certainly a lot easier.
Thanks, Fred. Atulia, and then Barbara.
Oh, through the years, I had Cat, Spider, Toady, and Flower lived to 19 years. And at the beginning, I had a pony named Dusty and a dog named Butch, Casey, then Taffy and Toady, and a darling Popcorn for 17 years. Now I have Mika and Cece, who came from the Humane Society, and we take care of each other. Thank God for them. During this time, I wouldn't have gotten animals since I was always going back and forth to India, but somebody said I should get a dog. So I got one dog, and when I got there, her sister was there with her, and they said, "Can you just foster this dog while she has an operation?" She had a horrible car accident. So I did, and so I kept both of them.
Thank you, Atulia. Barbara?
I have had several cats and dogs, but the most memorable was when I was a child and we had a cat named Coca-Cola and a dog named Rum. But what I wanted to tell you all is a book I highly recommend. It's called Dewey, and it's by Vicki Myron, and it's about a library cat. And it's an absolutely charming book. This cat just adopts a library in Spencer, Iowa. And if you want to read a lovely, cheering book in this not so cheering time, I highly recommend that book.
Say the name of it again, Barbara.
Dewey, as in the Dewey Decimal System.
Got it.
D-E-W-E-Y.
Okay.
That's how he got his name, with the Dewey Decimal System.
Thank you, Barbara.
And the author is Vicki Myron.
Vicki Myron. And let me now call on Curtis and Donna. And Peter, I see you want to say something else, but let's hear from Curtis and Donna first.
So we have 3 dogs and 3 cats. This is Sirius. He wants to say hi. He loves tigers. We have, when I met Donna, she had a very handsome Great Dane named Roscoe. He hadn't really taken a shine immediately to many people when we first started becoming friends, and he slowly got to know me better, and we became pretty good friends as we started dating, to the point that he was a very big part of our lives, and all of our friends would always come over to say hi and want to cuddle with him. So when I proposed to Donna in 2015, we had made a lot of plans around having Roscoe on our wedding. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with cancer in January 2016 when our wedding was set for that October. So we worked hard and worked with him to try and give him the best life we could for the rest of his days. And until he told us the morning of St. Patty's Day that it was time to say goodbye. So we had an artist mock up a very beautiful portrait of him that Donna's, we had one of our very important family members walk down the aisle with us. And he stood behind us during the ceremony and was
very much a presence
And
of our biggest day, and just really represented. Everybody knew him. We had pictures of everybody with him and such, and just it was a defining moment in the beginning of our relationship, of us coming together and doing everything we could for our baby boy that was so important to us and got us through so much. And he taught us so much, and now we're able to share that with our new fur babies that we have, and we've been able to do some work with some Great Dane rescues and such, and his legacy lives on. But
yeah, he was a very, very good boy.
Yes.
So now instead of just 1 dog and 2 cats, we have 3 dogs and 3 cats. So we always feel like he's telling us to just love more and always give back to the animals we find in our lives.
He'd given us so much.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Thanks, Curtis and Donna. Roscoe.
No, that's not.
And Peter, you have something else to add about your cats?
Yeah, real quickly, if the TV with music's not on, they chase each other snarling around the house and around the backyard. But when we watch TV, Gloria and I, the cats lie between us and they lick each other's faces, which I've never seen before. That's it.
Yeah, that shows they're comfortable. Anybody else like to share a story about the animals in your life? I'll put some more in. Representing the endless joy and comfort, the loyalty that we have from our beloved fur friends. Somebody did type in that it's Marion Cox's birthday, so I'll put in one for Marion. Does anyone else have a birthday or an anniversary or something that you would like to celebrate in our circle? Well, yeah, Mim asks about my Rosie. Yep, I've got a beloved Rosie who's going to be 13 this September. And also we have 2 cats that Francie and I adore, Woody and Jack. And I know others of you have animals, so I'm just going to dump the whole bowl. All right, everyone. So Janet, thanks for putting this service together. I think you've touched a very soft spot in all of our hearts. So blessings.
Thank you all for participating. It's so fun to hear your tributes. Okay, so humans have been watching animals and been being inspired by them since the beginning of time. In Colorado, we're lucky to have geese. I know they can be a little feisty sometimes. One of them attacked my friend the other day, but what big, beautiful birds they are. To begin my reflection, I thought we would get some wisdom from the geese. So geese are very good team players. Bears, however, have always been my very favorite animal, and I know they're the favorite of a lot of you too, because I've spoken with you. The occasions when I've gotten to see a bear in the wild have just left like this imprint on my brain. It's the weirdest thing. Last Christmas, my daughter painted me a picture of a bear and a cub. And it's true that the mama bears piggyback their babies when they want to get somewhere fast. When the babies get too tired to walk, they'll throw them on their backs to get to their destination. When I was a little girl, we lived in Sterling, Colorado. And we camped a few times every summer. My most memorable camping trip involved a very large bear who was sniffing around our canvas tent one night. It woke all of us up, and after some discussion, my dad decided he should go out and try to scare the bear away. So he grabbed some pans to cling together. In the end, he didn't have to make a ruckus because when my mom unzipped the tent for him, the bear ran off. What we didn't know until morning was where the bear went. Large footprints in the mud led to the picnic table of the adjoining campsite. It turned out that this bear chose to sleep on this picnic table after he left our camp. And it also turned out that two people were sleeping underneath that same table. The campers at this campsite were a couple from Germany who had never camped before. Since it had been sprinkling and they didn't own a tent, they had rolled out their rented sleeping bags under the table. Needless to say, they didn't sleep very well that night, with the bear sleeping on their makeshift shelter and hanging its two paws down on either side of the table, complete with claws. They said the bear snored, and as soon as he woke up and sauntered off, they ran to their car to wait for the morning. We became fast friends with this couple, and they came to our house for dinner before going back to Germany. They were the first people I had ever met from another country, so it was so exciting. And I'm sure they will never forget their first and most likely last camping trip in North America. Animal researcher Carl Safina says that what basically sets humans apart from other animals is that we are the most extreme. Humans are by far the most creative and the most destructive animal. But there are many, many things that humans have in common with the rest of the animal world. Humans are not the only animal that can feel joy or sorrow, fear and affection, pain and satisfaction. Animals can think and feel and show empathy. We can learn so many things and admire so many things about animals. Animals demonstrate selflessness and courage when defending their young. They show cooperation and loyalty to their pack. Animals know who their friends are, who their enemies are. They have strong bonds with family members and have the same imperatives that we do: to stay alive, keep their babies alive, and let life continue. Just like in human kids, we see innate curiosity and playfulness in the young of many types of animals. Most animals engage in courtship rituals before mating, and many animals are excellent parents with all the patience and perseverance that entails. I have a video to show you of a mama bear trying to get her cubs across the street. I'm sure there isn't a mom or a dad or a pet lover here who can't sympathize with this mama bear. And there's no sound to this, so just go ahead and watch.
Sorry, one moment, technical difficulty.
So 4 cubs are like 3 too many. That kills me. One thing that also fascinates me that is a lot of animals are often much stronger than we give them credit for. An aquarium in Africa, there was a baby bottlenose dolphin in a huge glass tank, and she was watching an employee during his break. The employee was smoking. She stared at the employee intently for a while, then went over to her mother to nurse, then came back to the glass to blow out the milk over her head in a white cloud, the milk making the same effect as the smoke. She did this over and over again to the delight of the smoking employee, and soon I'm sure everyone else who was in the building. In another aquarium, the lobsters were suddenly going missing from their tanks during the night. So they called a big meeting. The management called all the employees together, but no one would confess to this crime of stealing the lobsters. So they decided to put up a hidden camera. Imagine their surprise when they watched the octopus leave its own tank to treat himself to a lobster dinner. He then hid the evidence, the shells, underneath the rocks in the tank. My husband is fascinated with octopus because they are intelligent but have an entirely different brain structure than mammals do, as if they were from, some other planet altogether. Animals help us in so many ways, and I think, as all of you have said, that getting to live with and love an animal and be loved by an animal is one of life's greatest joys. Of course, there's ways that we can also help animals, and the biggest way is to value all different kinds of life forms and treat all animals with respect and kindness. We also need to save some room on this planet for them. One last video that I'd like to share is about some ocean animals that people were able to help.
You gotta try to take it off his neck. Watch out,
Do what we did before. Cut it. Get it over. Okay.
Alright. Okay. That's great.
Go. Dude. Wow. Sea turtle. Totally wrapped in balloon from head to flipper.
And now Laurel will extinguish the chalice.
For the blessing of animal companions, we give thanks. For the beautiful ones, those whose fur is silky and whose tails are long, whose feathers are brilliant or whose voices are splendid, we give thanks. For the animals unknown to us, those whose niche in life's web is fragile, whose lives are insecure, for all who care for them and wish them well, we give thanks. Blessed are the animals, blessed are the creatures who live with us and need our care. Blessed are the mammals and the reptiles and the birds who teach us we are not alone. Blessed are all living things from whom we learn to love.
And our closing song is called Look at the World.
Thank you, all of you who told us your stories and opened your hearts to the world that we share, the beautiful world that we share with so many. It's around 11, And we do have our spring congregational meeting that will start at 11:30. And so for our virtual coffee hour, let's just spend about 10 minutes in the breakout rooms. And then I'm hoping that many or all of you will return because we do need a quorum, and we're going to conduct some business, including reports from all of us to summarize the year that is just ending, but also we're electing new leaders, and we are voting on the budget for our 2021-2022 year. And so you'll have about 10 minutes and then 20 minutes maybe to grab something to eat. And then next week will be a Sunday service with Fred Schreckinger and I talking about some of our UU ancestors. And so the title of the service is What They Dreamed. And it comes from a song, and the line is, "May what they dreamed be ours to do." So the same Zoom room for the congregational meeting as we're in right now. So enjoy one another's company for about 10 minutes, and then I'll hope to see all of you again at 11:30. Take care.